I've heard you speak that everything is forgivable. I can understand that when it relates to my being mean to another person or an accident where I might have hurt someone. But what about murder or rape or crimes that seem to many to be so unforgivable? Perhaps you could explain what you mean by forgivable. That's a fair question. All right, when I say the phrase, everything is forgivable, I'm specifically referring to in two contexts primarily. Number one, in terms of karma, and actually that's part of one of my proverbs, one of my quotes, everything is forgivable, everything is redeemable, everything is forgivable. Redeemable as in being able to restore to what it was prior to whatever event. So the two areas that I focus on when I say this phrase, everything is forgivable, one is in the area of karma, that no matter what you do, what choices you make in life, obviously the loving usually don't incur negative karma, though sometimes they can, but let's say the non-loving choices you make that create negative karma, they can all be transmuted. That karma can be transmuted, can be balanced. Because remember, the universe always is in perfect balance at all times. And there are energies and forces in the universe that are always sustaining and maintaining balance. You know, and we know this through studies of physics too. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You know, and you know, we see in nature too, the ebb and flow of tide, the light and day of a 24-hour period. There's balance everywhere, scales that weigh and balance. And so energetically, the universe is always balancing. Now, when we engage and make choices, we are taking a form of control, a form of ownership, and we're entering into that equation of balance, and we are taking action through the four levels of creation: thought, feeling, word, and deed. And so when you're creating on any of those four levels in a very positive and loving way, then you're, how can I put this? Let me put it in banking terms. You're gaining interest. You're getting a positive interest in your account, your energetic account in the universe. And when you make non-loving choices in thought, feeling, word, or deed, the same thing happens. And so in order to balance, that has to come from you. So when you are sowing seeds of love into the universe, you're gaining interest, you're gaining dividends, and the universe will send that back to you amplified in kind. And that's, you know, that's how people describe that. And, you know, I'm using different ways to describe it so people can understand. And when you sow non-loving seeds, make non-loving choices in thought, feeling, word, and deed, or any combination thereof, that balancing has to come out of you somehow, because you took from the universe, because everything is, only love is real, and at the core of creation is pure love. And so when we do something to embellish and enhance that, we gain dividends, and the universe blesses us in return, amplified. When we take from that, away from that consummate love that the universe is and creation is, then that balancing has to come out of our hide or our life or our consciousness or our health or something in some way. So when I talk about everything is forgivable and redeemable, we have the power, because the full power of creation, the primordial power of creation, flows through us at all times, and we use it at all times, whether or not we're aware of it, we agree with it, we like it, or not. So we can become proactive and ride the horse rather than be dragged by it. So in other words, I'll give you an example. If you do something non-loving that causes harm to someone else, you have the ability to then acknowledge it, be accountable for it, apologize, make restitution, give something back to counter. Now, it may not be able to undo that event or act, obviously. In some cases, excuse me, in some cases it can, but in some cases it can't. But energetically, you most certainly can transmute and restore balance. Now, in a simple equation, let's say you broke someone's flower pot, you could go to the nursery, to the store, and buy another one and replace the plant and the dirt and all that, so you could bring that back. Now, you are asking, what about murder, rape, or severe crimes that many people would think are unforgivable? those of you who saw the movie Gandhi, this played out in one of the scenes in the film, an exact example of this law of cause and effect that I'm teaching and that I share with this proverb. When Gandhi was on one of his hunger strikes and was on his deathbed, this man in the movie comes up to him and he says, "Master, I have done the unforgivable." He said, I killed a man. He said, how is that in God's eyes, in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of myself? How is that ever forgivable? Because no matter what I do, I can't bring that person back to life. And Gandhi looked at him and said, "No, that is true. You cannot bring that life back. However, you can undo this. You can transmute and restore this." And he said, "What I want you to do," and of course in the movie Gandhi doesn't explain it the way I am because I'm extrapolating for a point of education, but in the movie he says, "I want you to go find an orphan and raise this child as your own and love this child, care for this child, so you will have saved a life in place of the life you took. You robbed someone of life, and now you're going to give someone life in return, and energetically there's a balancing." Does that justify the act? Of course not. Of course not. It doesn't at all. But it can, we have the power with our free choice and our free will to make restitution and maintain this balance so that the universe doesn't have to do it for us. Because if we do not be proactive and we're not accountable for our choices and our actions, when the universe does it on our behalf, it's with far less grace. And the price bears a lot greater interest. So it's more advantageous in terms of grace, in terms of karma, in terms of time, in terms of a lot of factors, that individuals are proactive and do this themselves.